Hello, we are looking at Shining Star A, Unit 6, and the theme is Look into the Future. And you can see some pictures here, some futuristic ideas. Okay, so this unit, like all of the other units, is divided into two parts. We're going to do part 1 first, and then we will do part 2. So please do not read all the way through them now. You're practicing these two texts until you get a quiz, and then these two. So the question is, what will our lives be like in the future? What will the world be like? We really don't know for sure, but by reading science articles and stories, we can make some predictions. In part 1, you will read a social studies article about some possible inventions of the future. Then you will read an interview with an astronaut about his experience of living in outer space. In part 2, you will travel with 3 boys to the year 2095. There they meet their great-granddaughters. Okay, wow, that's cool. They meet their great-granddaughters, who must help them return to the present. Then you will read a science article about the amazing but real code, DNA, that connects us to people in our past and future. So first part 1, then part 2. Okay, we're looking at Shining Star A, Unit 6, Part 2. So let's look at the background. The Time Warp Trio, 2095, is a science fiction story about traveling into the future. Science fiction combines elements of fiction and fantasy with scientific fact. Most science fiction stories are set in the future. In this excerpt, so this is a small piece of a book, excerpt, the characters travel into the future to the year 2095. So as you read, make connections. Pretend that you're able to travel 100 years into the future. Copy this chart. It says in your notebook. I think it's going to be better if you put it on your homework packet. Okay? So copy this chart in your homework packet. Fill in the blanks with your predictions of how people, places, and things will look in the future. What would your home look like in the future? So we're talking 80 years from now. How about your school? How will San Diego be different? How will your family be different? Who will be dead? Who will be alive? What differences will there be? And let's look at this. Cool. This is an artist's idea of a city of the future. And look at how the space is vertical, up and down. Because of the increase in population, we'll have to use more vertical space. Interesting. Okay, let's look at our vocabulary. So what are our words? Say them with me. And yes, I know you're listening on your own at a computer, but you need to practice saying these words. So say them softly. Mechanical, mechanical. Plastic, plastic. Revolutionary, revolutionary. Stories, stories. Streamlined, streamlined. Transported, transported. The mechanical sidewalk moves people quickly from place to place. Read it with me. The mechanical sidewalk moves people quickly from place to place. Her plastic raincoat kept her dry in the rain. With me. Her plastic raincoat kept her dry in the rain. The new invention was revolutionary. It changed the way that people lived. With me? The new invention was revolutionary. It changed the way that people lived. The tall buildings had 200 stories. We couldn't see the top. Again, the tall buildings had 200 stories. We couldn't see the top. Cars of the future will be smaller, faster, and more streamlined than cars of the past. Again, cars of the future will be smaller, faster, and more streamlined than cars of the past. They pressed the numbers and were transported 100 years into the future. Again, they pressed the numbers and were transported 100 years into the future. Now you need to use a dictionary or an online dictionary. What does the word mean? And how do you say it in your language? Just as I've asked you to do for the other 5 units, you need to write these down. Okay, you could write them in your notebook as long as you show me, but it's probably easier for you to find space in your homework packet. Like the vocabulary practice page where you have the crossword puzzle and all that. That might be a good place to do this. What does the word mean in English? And translate. What's the word in your language? Okay, reading for enjoyment. So it's always good to know why you're reading. This is a piece of science fiction. It's written for entertainment. Okay, sometimes you read for information. Other times you read just for fun or entertainment. When your purpose for reading is to enjoy, you want to be entertained by the characters, the setting, and the pictures that go with the text. People often read novels to be entertained. Think about how the words and pictures in this excerpt make you want to read more. Okay. So here we have the Time Warp Trio 2095. So a focus question, read this science fiction excerpt for your enjoyment. Are the characters, the setting, and the story entertaining? Why or why not? Okay, so after you watch this lesson, I want you to go ahead and read along. Okay, follow with your finger and track in your book as you listen to the audio on Schoology. So this is a pretty crazy picture. People are green, and are they flying? My goodness, interesting. Okay, so before you read, there's a little summary piece here, because this is an excerpt. It's taken from a full book. So this is explaining what's going on. Okay, as we look down here, literary element, dialogue. Say it, dialogue. This is dialogue. This is dialogue. This is dialogue. Dialogue is what characters say to each other. The words in quotation marks show the exact words of the characters. That's called dialogue. Okay, and you have questions. Are you writing down the answers to these questions? Hopefully you are. I'm going to ask that you write the answers down on your homework packet. If you write them in your journal, you have to make sure you show me, or you'll miss points for that. Where are the boys transported? What is New York like in the future? So those are the 2 questions you're going to answer. And then there's a how about you question, which are interesting. Imagine you could travel to any time period. Which time period would you choose? Why? Would you go forward in time or backward in time? Where in time would you go? Here we are in 2016. Would you go this way in time or this way in time, and why? Okay, so again, remembering that you are responsible for the vocabulary words, writing them down, and answering the before you go on questions on your homework packet. Okay, so please now get your listening self ready. You're going to be listening with headphones, hopefully your own headphones that you brought, to Time Warp Trio as you follow along, tracking with your finger, and you're prepared to write your answers on your homework packet. Thank you. Hello, so we're looking at Time Warp Trio, and we're on page 246. I want to point something out to you. Do you know what these three little asterisk stars mean? And do you know why the font, the lettering, is different here? So notice this. Okay, look at how it's written. Layers and layers of anti-gravity cars and lines of people snaked around 100 stories above us. New York was bigger, busier, and noisier than ever. ... So that means it keeps going. It continues, and then we have asterisk, 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 or star, star, star. That means, because this is an excerpt, okay, that means time has passed, or we are in a different scene. When you see the dot or the star, 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 it means new scene. Like if you were watching a movie or a TV show and you went to a new setting, a new situation, something new was happening, that's what that is telling you, okay? And this is like a narrator's voice. You notice it's written in slant, which is called italics. Say italics. Okay, so we have a regular font, we have italics, and then back to regular font. So this here is like the narrator's voice telling you what's happening. Now wearing anti-gravity discs, the boys fly through the streets of New York, still chased by the Cellbot and three futuristic girls who look strangely familiar. Uncle Joe has appeared out of nowhere to help. The girls catch up, and Joe is surprised to see that one of the girls looks very much like his sister. Okay, so that's like the narrator's voice. And then we go back to the dialogue. The talking. Okay, I want to make sure you understood that. And why is the font different here? Why do we go from a typed script, regular font, to a cursive font? Why do we do that? Because we're showing what was written in a note. So handwriting, it says. Right, we're using handwriting. Okay, so what questions do you need to have answered by page 247? Who are the three girls? Who are the three girls? The three girls are and. How do the girls know the boys will be at the museum? The girls know the boys will be at the museum because... How about you? Imagine, pretend, you are Joe. How do you feel at this point in the story? If I were Joe, I would feel... Okay, make sure you're writing these down somewhere. We have a place where we're supposed to be writing these down in our journal, right? Okay. Okay, we are now on page 248 of Time Warp Trio. Did you notice that there are many, many words highlighted? There are many key words here. We have blow up, logo, Yankees, pitching, stats, levitation devices, head-on collision, bugged out,
Calamity Jane, Cleopatra, and so on. So you know that when you see a highlighted word in a text that you're going to have the definition close by. Okay, so here we have the definitions for all these key words, and this is to help you understand the text without having to look up the word on your own. Okay, so when you read, your eyes are going from here to here to here, and up and down and up and down and back and forth. It's a very good strategy to preview, to look at the highlighted words and what they mean before you read the text, and then again after you read the text, not just during the reading of the text, just to make sure you understand what you're reading. Okay, there's something else here that's interesting. You see this little asterisk? The little star? So that's giving us additional information about something in the text. Can you find out what it's referring back to? So it refers back to here. Okay. Not just a pitcher, she was a great pitcher, said Freddie. 2.79 lifetime ERA, 275 wins, 3 no-hitters, and the Cy Young Award in 37. And the asterisk tells us, explains to us, in case we are not baseball experts, this information shows that Fred's future daughter is a great baseball player. This is especially interesting because there are no women players in professional baseball today. Did you know that? No women. Okay, so when you see the little asterisk, and then you see how this font is smaller, okay, then you're getting additional information. Actually, this is called a footnote because it's at the bottom. It's a footnote. Okay. And what do we have here? That is the author, John Zieska, something like that. John Zieska has written many books for kids. Other books in the Time Warp Trio series include The Good, the Bad, and the Goofy, Knights of the Kitchen Table, The Not So Jolly Roger, and Your Mother Was a Neanderthal. And if you don't know that, these titles are puns referring to other works of literature. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Knights of the Round Table, The Jolly Roger, which is a pirate, and I don't know about the last one, Your Mother Was a Neanderthal. Funny. Okay, so the last 3 questions here, or before you go on questions. Which character discovered the anti-gravity disk but doesn't know it? Blah, 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 discovered the anti-gravity disk, but doesn't know it. What will happen to the boys if they learn too much information while visiting the future? Da, 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 will happen to the boys if they learn too much information while visiting the future. How about you? Imagine you are able to travel through time. Who would you take with you, and why? If I were able to travel through time, I would take da-da-da with me. One reason is because da-da-da. Another reason is because da-da-da. Now, of course, you're going to fill in your own blanks. Okay, so we're looking at Shining Star A, Unit 6, Part 2, Time Warp Trio, and we're looking at the section on page 250, 251 called Review and Practice. There are 2 things I want you to be prepared for when we get into groups. You should have a chart like this. Okay. What did you enjoy? What did you like the most about this excerpt? Write one sentence, something you liked the most about the characters. Write one complete sentence, something you enjoyed about the pictures, the illustrations, the setting, when and where it took place. What did you enjoy about that? And any other details about everyday life in the future, such as the food they ate, the clothing, the transportation. What did you enjoy? So have this prepared when we come to group. This example here, how future food may look. Okay. Don't worry about the extension for now. The discussion. So there are 3 questions here. You need to have done your own thinking, and you need to write down your answers to bring to a discussion group. What do you think was the best part of time travel for Sam, Fred, and Joe? What was the worst part? So what was the best part of time travel? What was the worst part? So there's 2 parts to that question. How did the dialogue in the excerpt from the Time Warp Trio 2095 help you understand the characters? So what's dialogue? Dialogue is talking, conversation. When you see hi, right? She said, something like that. When you see a conversation with quotation marks, okay? Dialogue. How did the talking, the dialogue, help you understand the characters? Okay, and then it says reread the definition of science fiction on page 242. Can you find some fiction, some fantasy, and some scientific fact in the Time Warp Trio 2095? So you're looking for those 3 things. You're looking for examples of fiction, right? Things that couldn't really happen, they're imaginary. Fantasy. And if you don't know what the word fantasy means, this is a good time to look it up. Okay, and science, actual science facts. So examples in the story of those 3 things. Okay, so this discussion will happen Friday. Be prepared for it. What you enjoyed and the answers to these 3 questions. Thank you. Okay, we're in Shining Star A, Unit 6, Part 2. The last text. And we're connecting to content. This is a science article. Okay, this is the kind of information you're going to need in your high school biology class. You will read facts about DNA, the building blocks of all forms of life. The purpose of this article is to give information about DNA. After reading each section, stop and summarize what you read. So what does that mean? Here's a section. Okay, after you've read it, stop in a 1 sentence using your own words, not more than 2 words in a row from the text. What is the section about? Question, what is DNA? The answer, DNA is blah, 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 blah. And what are genes? Genes are not the pants you put on, right? Different kind of genes. Okay. Genes and people. How do genes affect people? Okay. Genes are important to people because. How are genes inherited? Sorry, it doesn't say genes, it says traits. Traits are inherited. How? Actually, it doesn't give an answer. Interesting. So traits are inherited from family members. Okay, so do make sure that you're paying attention also to the key words, which are highlighted, and then the definition is explained to you down here. Of course, you're paying attention to the illustrations and the captions. So this is a model of DNA that's found inside cells. Okay, and you know a cell is, that is the sound of my dog walking over here. Sorry. You know how small a cell is, and this is a structure inside of a cell. So it's not something that we can readily see. This is a model, a construction of what we think DNA looks like. And it's described as a double helix, if you can tell, because of the way they twist together. It's called a double helix. Okay, identical twins. You know what twins means? You see, they're the same. They're identical twins, and they have the same genes. Okay, they have the same DNA. Again, that was my dog. Shh. Okay, this family tree is actually interesting. Let's look at this for a minute. This family tree shows how family members share traits. So, do you notice that? Okay, so the little girl, Graciela, has glasses. Where did she get that? Both of her parents have glasses, and her grandfather on her father's side. Sorry, not both of her parents, that's her aunt. Her father and her father's father, her grandfather, had glasses. So she got that trait from that part of her family. Where does she get the curly hair? Yoda, go away. Go. She gets the curly hair from her grandmother, went to her mother, and now her hair. Also, not only is it curly, it's blonde. She has light hair. From her father's side is dark hair. Good thing she's a girl, because if she were a boy, she might have inherited the trait of baldness. You notice that on her mother's side, the men lose their hair a little bit right there. Whereas on her father's side, they've got a nice big, thick head of hair. Lots of hair. Okay, any other traits that we notice? I don't know if you can tell, but I see right here on the grandmother's chin is a little indentation called a dimple. The grandmother has it, the mother has it, and I don't think Graciela has it. I can't see it, but these two have it. The mother and the uncle, the mother's brother, Mario, have it. Let's see. Dimples. Here's another one. Her father has dimples, and he got those dimples from his mom. And dimples are the little dents in your cheek. This is very cute. Little dimple right there. And Graciela has those little dimples. So it's an example of how our traits are passed down through our family. And before we go on. Where is DNA found? DNA is found within a cell. I just gave you the answer. Darn. Okay. What are some traits that people inherit? People inherit traits such as blank, blank and blank, such as needing glasses, having dimples, and having curly hair, for example. Okay, how about you? Think about the traits that you have inherited from mother, father, grandparents. Name 2 traits you or someone you know inherited from a parent or grandparent. Okay, we're on page 254, Time Warp Trio. Okay, DNA and solving crimes, pages 254, 255. Perhaps you've watched TV shows like CSI, Law and Order, and you've heard of this, that DNA is used to solve crimes. That forensic scientists are people who study crimes by looking at evidence. Many forensic scientists use scientific or medical tests to solve crimes, and one of the tests is DNA. So if there's blood, hair, or any other body tissue, found at the scene of a crime, it can be tested to see who committed the crime. So let's say a bad guy scratches his head and some hairs fall down. The hairs can be tested and traced back to the bad guy to find out who committed the crime. So on the other side of that is that there have been innocent people who have been put in jail who are now proven to be innocent because of DNA tests. There was other evidence that got them convicted for the crime. It could be a witness, could be, other evidence, fingerprints and so forth. But because of DNA testing, it was discovered that somebody else committed the crime and they were innocent. So that's pretty amazing. Something called the Innocence Project investigates many, many criminal cases. And an example here, you see this picture, okay, Chris Ochoa was freed from prison and he was serving a life sentence for murder. But it was found out when his DNA was tested against the evidence from the crime scene that it wasn't him. He didn't do it. All this time he said he was innocent, and it turns out he really was. But he spent 12 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. So, DNA testing is very important now. And if you find that interesting, there's a career in that. Crime scene investigation, CSI. Okay, so what can scientists test to find DNA? Remember where you saw that? Scientists can test blood, hair, or other body tissues. How did DNA testing help Chris Ochoa? DNA testing helped Chris Ochoa prove he was innocent. How about you? Would you like to be a forensic scientist? A CSI scientist? Why? Or why not? So to answer that, you would say, if yes, I would like to be a forensic scientist because, or you would say, no, I would not like to be a forensic scientist because, okay. Woo. And you don't need to look at this top part. Well, you can look at it, but you don't have to write it down for me. So discussion, be prepared to discuss. Friday, number 1, One of the girls in 2095 looks very much like Joe's sister. Why is this fact important? Number 2. Everyone has his or her own special code called DNA. How is this fact important in the Time Warp Trio 2095 excerpt? How is it important in real life? And notice here, the bands in these DNA sequences show that both children share some bands with each parent. Okay, so here's the mother. You see both kids have that same band. Here's the father. And this child, it's probably a boy, has that band. And you see the father and both children share this. And the mother and both children share that. So those are bands on the DNA sequence. You see some that are the same and some that are not. This proves that they're related. Interesting. Okay, hello, we are on page 256, and we're looking at the grammar for part 2 of Unit 6, Shining Star A. Grammar. Using be going to for the future. Use be going to plus a base form of a verb to talk about future plans. So for example, and by the way, be. What are the forms of be before we go any further? We have I am, you are, he is, she is, it is. This is all to be. What else? We are, you plural, like you all are. Okay? Woo! How do I make that bigger? Aha. So, I'm, the contraction. I'm going to visit my grandparents this weekend. My parents are going, right? They are. Oh, that's what I forgot. They are. Okay. My parents are going to talk to my teacher tonight. Will and be going to have the same meaning when making predictions about the future. So I am scientist Will. Forensic scientists will help solve more crimes using DNA tests. Forensic scientists are going to help solve more crimes using DNA tests. So these two mean the same thing. Practice. So let's practice writing these sentences in your notebook. You have a workbook page that practices this as well. Example, Helen is going to visit me on Friday. Okay, let's try number 1. My sister is going to call home this evening. Joni, Freddie, and Samantha, they are going to buy new anti-gravity discs next week. I am going to see the doctor tomorrow morning. We are going to watch my sister play tennis after school. He is going to stay home tonight. And you can continue. Let's try those same 5, but instead of is going to, let's try will. Will. All right, try it with me. My sister will call home this evening. Joni, Freddie, and Samantha will buy new anti-gravity discs next week. I will see the doctor tomorrow morning. We will watch my sister play tennis after school. He will stay home tonight. So what sounds better to you? He is going to stay home tonight, or he will stay home tonight? Yep. And they mean the same. Okay, we're looking now at page 257. Skills for writing, making sentence outlines. So the first and second steps in writing a research report are choosing a topic and researching it. The third step is organizing the facts you found in your research in an outline. Okay, so in other words, we have the first step, the second step. So the first step is choosing a topic, and the second step is researching it. The third step is organizing it into an outline. One type of outline is called a sentence outline. In a sentence outline, you group facts together under main ideas and supporting ideas. So look at this sentence outline about the Skycar M400. Then answer the questions. So what do we see? We see a main idea, Roman numeral 1, and then we have supporting ideas A, B, and C. Okay, notice that there is a complete sentence for each part of this outline. And these complete sentences are not copied directly from a text. They are in the writer's own words, so that when their final research paper is written, when it's written, it won't be copied from the book. It'll be in the research from Google, wherever. It'll be in the writer's own words. Okay. So what is the first main idea? Do the sentences under it support it? Yes, the sentences under it support it. Or no, the sentences under it do not support it. What is the second main idea? Okay, do the sentences under it support it? Okay. Okay, we're looking at page 258, the writing assignment for Unit 6, Part 2, Shining Star A. Directions. You will make a sentence outline of the text DNA, Genes, and Traits on pages 252 to 254. Number 1, read. Obviously. Reread, read again, the sentence outline on page 257. Note, pay attention to how the writer used main ideas and supporting ideas. Also notice how the writer is putting the sentences in his or her own words, not copying directly from the book. Monkeys can copy. Writing strategy outline. Follow this outline to organize the information in the article. Try to have at least 2 supporting details under each main idea. This will help you know whether you need to find more information about your topic. Okay? So, where are those main ideas? You're saying to yourself, oh, I know. There are headings. I'm going to use the heading to help me get my main idea. That is right. And then under the heading, what are your supporting details? Okay? So how many main ideas are there in this research report? How many supporting details are there? Etc. So when you make an outline, okay, you're going to start your outline by filling in the main ideas first. Okay, so the headings can be the main ideas for your outline. Okay, then you're going to write the supporting ideas under each main idea. All right, so did you list the main ideas first? Did you find at least 2 supporting details for each main idea? Did you remember to indent the details? Try this. Okay, what are we talking about with indenting? Right here. So we've got Roman numeral 1, and then we go over and we indent to our supporting detail A, B, and C. Then we go back, see how these line up? Roman numeral 2. Next line, indent to A, B, maybe C, maybe not. Back to our margin, Roman numeral 3, indent A, B. Okay. And the last editing checklist item, did you use any sentences in the future? Are going to, will be from the grammar lesson. Try to use some sentences in the future tense. And yes, you really do have to do this. And finally, to wrap up part 2 of Unit 6, work through these 10 questions, 6 on language and 4 on academic content. Do you know the answer to the questions? Do you feel comfortable explaining them? If you do, you will do well on the test. If you do not, you need to go back and review. Rewatch the lessons I've given you, go back through your text. So the questions are, how did your purpose differ? How is it different in reading the excerpt from the Time Warp Trio 2095 and DNA, Genes, and Traits? I'll give you a hint. You need to look at the different reading strategy that you were asked to use when reading the excerpt and the article. Number 2, what is a dialogue? What's dialogue? What are quotation marks? Give examples. If you do not know what dialogue and quotation marks are, please go back through the lesson and find out. What is science fiction? Why is the Time Warp Trio 2095 science fiction? What is the reason to make a sentence outline when you write a report? So why do this? What information is included in an outline? Main ideas, supporting details. Give an example of be going to talk about future plans. I am going to, he is going to, we are going to. Give an example. Academic content. What new science vocabulary did you learn in part 2? What do the words mean? What do you call the chemical code found in every cell? Where are genes located and what do they do? How do forensic scientists use DNA to help solve crimes? So make sure you're able to answer these questions. Thank you very much.